First contact and distress. The vast expanse of space stretched out before the Galactic Confederation vessel, Starweaver, its sleek hull gliding effortlessly through the cosmic void. Captain Zixara, a towering insectoid with iridescent exoskeleton, stood on the bridge, all four of her compound eyes fixed on the main view screen. Her mandibles clicked softly as she addressed her diverse crew of aliens from across the known galaxy. "Status report," she chittered, antennae twitching with anticipation. Her first officer, a gelatinous being named Blorp, oozed forward. "All systems nominal, Captain. We're on course for the Andromeda Trading Hub. ETA, 72 standard cycles." Zixara nodded, her exoskeleton shimmering under the ambient light of the bridge. It was a routine mission, transporting precious minerals and scientific data from the outer rim. Nothing they hadn't done 1,000 times before, yet something in her thorax told her this journey would be different. As if on cue, the ship's communication officer, a serpentine creature named Syleth, let out a startled hiss. "Captain, we're receiving a distress signal from a nearby sector." Zixara's antennae perked up. "Origin?" Syleth's forked tongue flicked out as he analyzed the data. It's from a human vessel, Captain." A collective gasp rippled through the bridge. Humans, the infamous Deathworlders from the planet Earth, were a relatively new addition to the galactic community. Stories of their resilience, adaptability, and sheer stubbornness in the face of adversity had spread like wildfire across the stars. Some saw them as potential allies, others as a threat, but all agreed on one thing: humans were not to be underestimated. Captain Zixara's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of deep thought. "Plot and intercept course," she finally decided. "We are bound by the galactic code to assist." As the Starweaver changed direction, tension filled the air. None of the crew had ever encountered a human up close before. Their imaginations ran wild with speculation about what they might find. Hours later, they arrived at the coordinates of the distress signal. Floating in the void was a small, battered ship of clearly human design. Its hull was pockmarked with micro-meteor impacts, and one of its engines sputtered weakly. "Hail them," Zixara ordered. The view screen flickered to life, revealing the face of a human. The alien crew couldn't help but stare at the bizarre, flat features, the tiny eyes, and the patch of fur atop its head. "This is Captain Elena Rodriguez of the Earth vessel, Curiosity," the human said, her voice steady despite the obvious strain in her eyes. "Thank you for responding to our distress call." Zixara stepped forward. "I am Captain Zixara of the Galactic Confederation. What seems to be the problem, Captain Rodriguez?" Elena's lips curved into what the alien crew would later learn was a wry smile. "Well, Captain, we've had a bit of a rough go. Our main drive is shot, life support is failing, and we're drifting into an unstable region of space. We could use a tow to the nearest station, if you're willing." Zixara's antennae twitched with curiosity. "Of course. We'll prepare to bring you aboard." "How many in your crew?" "Just me and my engineer, Alex Chen," Elena replied. "We're on a long-range exploration mission. Or we were, until we hit that ion storm a few parsecs back." As the Starweaver's tractor beam locked onto the human vessel, Zixara couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter would change everything. She was right, but not in the way she expected. The docking procedure went smoothly, and soon the airlock cycled open. Captain Rodriguez stepped through first, her environmental suit bulky and primitive by Confederation standards. Behind her came Alex Chen, the engineer, carrying a large toolkit that looked like it had seen better days. Zixara and her senior staff were there to greet them. As the humans removed their helmets, the alien crew instinctively took a step back. The stories of human biology being toxic to other life forms might have been exaggerated, but old fears died hard. Elena noticed their hesitation and chuckled. "Don't worry, we don't bite. Well, not unless you're a really good meal." The joke was lost on the aliens, but they appreciated the attempt at levity. Zixera stepped forward, extending a multi-jointed limb in what she hoped was a universal gesture of welcome. Captain Rodriguez, Engineer Chen, welcome aboard the Starweaver. We're glad we could be of assistance. Alex's eyes widened as he took in the advanced technology surrounding them. This ship is incredible, he breathed, his fingers twitching as if he longed to take it all apart and see how it worked. Blorp oozed closer, curiosity overcoming caution. Your vessel appeared quite damaged. How did you manage to survive for so long in such conditions? Elena and Alex exchanged a glance that spoke volumes. We're pretty good at improvising, Elena said simply. As they made their way to the bridge, discussing the logistics of towing the Curiosity, a violent shudder ran through the Starweaver. Alarms blared, and the lights flickered ominously. Report. Zixera snapped, her calm demeanor cracking slightly. Silath's scales stood on end as he analyzed the readings. Captain, we've drifted into some kind of spatial anomaly. Our shields are failing, and the hull integrity is compromised in multiple sections. Another tremor rocked the ship, more violent than the first. The humans stumbled but quickly regained their footing, their bodies seemingly adapting to the unstable environment faster than the alien crew. Can we break free? Zixera demanded, her compound eyes darting between various status displays. Blort's gelatinous form rippled with distress. Negative, Captain. The anomaly has some kind of gravitational pull. We're being drawn in. As panic began to spread among the crew, Elena stepped forward, her face set in a determined expression that would soon become familiar to the aliens. Captain Zixera, your ship is more advanced than ours, but we've dealt with similar situations before. If you'll allow us, maybe we can help. Zixera hesitated for a moment, years of ingrained caution warring with the desperate need for a solution. Finally, she nodded. Very well, Captain Rodriguez. What do you propose? Elena turned to her engineer. Alex, what do you think? Can we rig something up to break us free? Alex was already scanning the ship's schematics on a nearby console, his fingers flying over the alien interface with surprising dexterity. Maybe, he muttered, more to himself than anyone else. If we can reverse the polarity of the shield generators and couple them with the warp drive, we might be able to create a bubble of normal space around us. It's risky, but it's our best shot. Elena finished. She looked at Zixera, her small, alien eyes burning with an intensity that made the captain's exoskeleton tingle. What do you say, Captain? Are you willing to trust a couple of Deathworlders? As another violent tremor shook the ship, threatening to tear it apart, Zixera realized she had no choice. The fate of her crew, her ship, and these strange, fascinating humans now rested on a desperate gamble. Do it, she chittered, her voice firm despite the fear coursing through her. Whatever you need, it's yours. And with that, the real adventure began, as human ingenuity prepared to face off against the unforgiving void of space. The human solution. The bridge of the Starweaver had transformed into a hive of frantic activity. Alien crew members rushed back and forth, their varied anatomies creating a surreal tableau of organized chaos. At the center of it all stood Alex Chen, the human engineer, his face illuminated by the glow of holographic displays as he worked feverishly to implement his daring plan. Captain Zixera watched with a mixture of hope and trepidation, her compound eyes reflecting the flickering emergency lights. Engineer Chen, she chittered, please explain your strategy again. I want to ensure all my crew understands the risks. Alex looked up from his work, his eyes bloodshot but alert. Of course, Captain, he said, his voice steady despite the ship's continuous shuddering. We're going to create a bubble of normal space around the Starweaver by reversing the polarity of your shield generators and coupling them with the warp drive. Blorp, the gelatinous first officer, rippled with confusion. But that's impossible. The power requirements alone would be astronomical. Yes. Alex interrupted, a grim smile on his face. That's where we get creative. We're going to use the gravitational pull of the anomaly itself to our advantage. As we're pulled in, we'll channel that energy through the ship's systems, amplifying our power output. Captain Rodriguez stepped forward, her posture radiating confidence that seemed to calm the alien crew. Think of it like surfing a wave, she added. We'll ride the edge of the anomaly, using its own force against it. Silath, the Serpentine communications officer, let out a skeptical hiss. And you've done this before. Alex and Elena exchanged a quick glance. Well, not exactly, Alex admitted, but the principles are sound. It's similar to how we escaped a black hole's event horizon during the Proxima Centauri expedition. The alien crew's expressions ranged from disbelief to outright horror at the casual mention of such a perilous encounter. Captain Zixera's antennae twitched rapidly, a sign of deep thought. Very well, she finally chittered. What do you need from us, Engineer Chen? Alex's face lit up with determination. I need access to your engineering bay and your best technicians. We'll have to modify the shield generators and reconfigure the warp drive. It's going to be tricky, and we don't have much time. As if to emphasize his point, another violent tremor rocked the ship. Warning klaxons blared as new alerts flashed across the screens. Hull breach on Deck 7, cried out a multi-limbed alien at one of the consoles. Emergency force fields are holding, but we're losing power fast. Captain Zixera's exoskeleton seemed to pale slightly, but her voice remained steady. You heard the human. All available engineering personnel, report to main engineering immediately. Assist Engineer Chen in any way possible. As the crew scrambled to comply, Alex turned to Elena. Captain, I could use your help too. Your experience with the black hole escape might come in handy. Elena nodded, her expression serious. Just like old times, Alex. Let's hope we're as lucky now as we were then. The two humans rushed off towards engineering, leaving Captain Zixera and her bridge crew to manage the increasingly dire situation on the bridge. In main engineering, Alex found himself surrounded by a dizzying array of alien technology. Under normal circumstances, he would have been ecstatic at the opportunity to study such advanced systems. Now, with the lives of everyone aboard hanging in the balance, he pushed his excitement aside and focused on the task at hand. Okay, let's get to work, he announced to the assembled alien engineers. We need to reconfigure the shield generators to emit an inverted tachyon field. Who's familiar with the emitter arrays? A tentacled being stepped forward, its bioluminescent skin pulsing with nervous energy. I am human, but what you're proposing, it goes against every safety protocol we have. Alex grinned, an expression that the aliens found both reassuring and slightly unnerving. Sometimes you have to break the rules to make the impossible possible. Now show me those emitter controls. As Alex and the alien crew began their work, Elena coordinated with the bridge, relaying information and keeping an eye on the ship's rapidly deteriorating condition. The Starweaver groaned and creaked around them, the metal stress, under forces it was never designed to withstand. Hours passed in a blur of frantic activity. Alex's hands flew over control panels, his mind racing to adapt his theoretical knowledge to the alien systems before him. The engineering crew, initially skeptical, found themselves swept up in the humans' enthusiasm and determination. Reroute the plasma conduits through the auxiliary power couplings. Alex called out, his voice hoarse from shouting over the din of alarms and straining machinery. We need every ounce of power we can get. As the modifications neared completion, a particularly violent tremor shook the ship. The lights flickered ominously, and for a heart-stopping moment, everything went dark. In the eerie silence that followed, Alex's voice rang out, calm and clear. It's okay. That was expected. The power surge means we're on the right track. Emergency lights should kick in 3, 2, 1. As if on cue, a soft red glow filled the engineering bay. The alien crew let out a collective sigh of relief, a symphony of hisses, clicks, and warbles. Alex, Elena's voice crackled over the comm system, tight with tension. Bridge reports we got less than 10 minutes before the hull integrity fails completely. Please tell me you're ready. Alex took a deep breath, looking around at the hodgepodge of jury-rigged systems surrounding him. It wasn't pretty, but it was their only shot. As ready as we'll ever be, he replied. Tell the captain to divert all remaining power to the shield generators on my mark. And Elena, it's been an honor. Save the speeches for when we're safe, you dramatic idiot. Elena shot back, but Alex could hear the affection in her voice. Okay, Zixera, you heard the man. Get ready to punch it. On the bridge, Captain Zixera's antennae quivered with a mixture of fear and anticipation. All hands, brace for impact, she announced shipwide. May the cosmic winds be in our favor. In engineering, Alex placed his hand on the final control, a makeshift lever cobbled together from spare parts. He closed his eyes for a brief moment, sending a silent prayer to whatever forces might be listening in the uncaring void of space. Here goes nothing, he muttered, and pulled the lever. The effect was immediate and terrifying. The Starweaver bucked like a wild animal, lights flaring to painful brightness before plunging into darkness. A high-pitched whine filled the air, rising in pitch until it passed beyond the range of hearing. On the bridge, the view screen showed a mesmerizing and horrifying sight. A spatial anomaly that had trapped them seemed to twist and contort, its swirling energies coalescing into a funnel-like shape. It's working, Blorp exclaimed, his gelatinous form quivering with excitement. We're creating a tunnel of normal space. Captain Zixera leaned forward, her compound eyes reflecting the swirling chaos before them. Full power to the engines, she ordered. Let's ride this wave home. The Starweaver surged forward, straining against the pull of the anomaly. For a moment that seemed to stretch into eternity, the ship hung on the knife's edge between salvation and destruction. And then, with a final, wrenching lurch, they were through. The view screen filled with the blessed sight of normal space, stars twinkling serenely against the velvet backdrop of the cosmos. A cheer went up from the bridge crew, a cacophony of alien voices united in relief and triumph. Captain Zixera allowed herself a moment of unbridled joy, her mandibles clicking rapidly in the insectoid equivalent of a grin. We did it, she chittered softly. The humans, they actually did it. As the initial euphoria subsided, concern set in. Engineering, report, Zixera called out. What's the status of Engineer Chen and his team? For a long, terrible moment, there was no response. Then, Alex's voice came through, weak but unmistakably alive. We're here, Captain. A bit worse for wear, but still kicking. Your engineering bay might need a bit of tidying up, though. The bridge erupted in laughter, the release of tension palpable. Captain Zixera's antennae waved gently, a gesture of deep respect in her species. Engineer Chen, Captain Rodriguez, I believe we owe you our lives. On behalf of my crew and the Galactic Confederation, I thank you. As the Starweaver limped towards the nearest space station for repairs, the alien crew found themselves looking at their human guests with new eyes. These strange, soft-skinned creatures from a death world had faced down the impossible and emerged victorious. It was clear that the galaxy would never be quite the same again. Little did they know, their adventure was far from over. The spatial anomaly they had escaped had left its mark on the ship in ways they had yet to discover, and the true test of human ingenuity and alien cooperation was still to come. Dancing with death in the void, the Starweaver limped through space, its once pristine hull now scarred and battered. Inside, the mixed crew of aliens and humans worked tirelessly to assess the damage and effect repairs. Despite their narrow escape from the spatial anomaly, a palpable sense of unease hung in the recycled air. Alex Chen stood in the engineering bay, surrounded by a sea of blinking diagnostic panels and concerned alien faces. His clothes were singed, his hair disheveled, but his eyes burned with the same determination that had seen them through their harrowing ordeal. Okay, "Let's take stock," he announced, his voice carrying the weight of authority that comes from saving the ship full of lives. "We've got multiple hull breaches, the warp drive is offline, and life support is running on auxiliary power. Anyone else have good news?" A chorus of clicks, whistles, and electronic beeps answered him as the alien engineers reported their findings. The news wasn't encouraging. Captain Zixera's voice crackled over the intercom, her usual calm tinged with worry. "Engineer Chen, we're receiving disturbing readings from the outer hull. Can you investigate?" Alex frowned, moving to a nearby console. As he studied the readouts, his expression grew grim. "Captain, I think we have a problem. The spatial anomaly seems to have left some kind of residue on the hull. It's eating through the metal like acid." A collective gasp rippled through the engineering bay. Blorp, who had joined the engineering team to assist, wobbled anxiously. "But that's impossible. Our hull is made of durasteel alloy. Nothing should be able to corrode it like that." Alex's mind raced, piecing together the puzzle. It's not normal corrosion. The anomaly must have altered the quantum structure of the hull material. We're dealing with some kind of cascading molecular breakdown. Captain Rodriguez's voice joined the conversation, tense but controlled. "How long do we have, Alex?" After a moment of rapid calculation, Alex delivered the grim news. "At the current rate of degradation, maybe 6 hours before we lose structural integrity completely." The silence that followed was deafening. It was Captain Zixera who broke it, her voice firm with resolve. "What are our options, Engineer Chen?" Alex ran a hand through his hair, his mind already formulating and discarding plans at lightning speed. "We need to neutralize the residue and reinforce the hull. The problem is, we don't have the materials or equipment to do it from the inside." Elena caught on immediately, her voice filled with a mix of excitement and dread. "You're talking about an external repair. A spacewalk." "Exactly," Alex confirmed. "We need to apply a neutralizing agent directly to the affected areas of the hull. Then we can use the ship's emergency hull sealant to reinforce the weakened sections." Silath, who had slithered down from the bridge to join them, let out a concerned hiss. "But our spacesuits weren't designed for such intensive work. The residue could eat through them as well." A heavy silence fell over the group as the implications sank in. It was Blorp who finally spoke up, his gelatinous form rippling with nervous energy. "What about the human suits? They survived the initial exposure in the airlock." All eyes turned to Alex and Elena. The two humans exchanged a long look, years of shared adventures and narrow escapes passing between them in an instant. Elena nodded slowly. "Our suits are tougher than they look. Designed for extreme environments. They might just hold up long enough to get the job done." "Hold up," Zixera interjected, her antennae twitching agitatedly. "You can't possibly be suggesting that you two go out there alone. It's too dangerous." Alex's face set in a determined expression that was becoming familiar to the alien crew. "With all due respect, Captain, we don't have a choice. Your crew isn't equipped for this, and we're running out of time. Elena and I have the best chance of pulling this off." A tense moment passed as Zixera considered their options. Finally, her compound eyes seemed to soften. "Very well, but I want it on record that I protest this course of action." "Noted," Elena said with a grim smile. "Now let's get to work. We've got a ship to save." The next hour was a whirlwind of activity as the humans prepared for their dangerous mission. The alien crew watched in fascination as Alex and Elena donned their environmental suits, marveling at the compact yet durable design. "These suits," Blort burbled curiously, one pseudopod extending to touch the material. "They seem so primitive compared to ours, yet they're more versatile." Alex chuckled as he checked Elena's suit seals. "Humanity's greatest strength is our adaptability. These suits are the result of centuries of space exploration, designed to handle just about anything the universe can throw at us." As they made final preparations, Zixera approached, her exoskeleton glimmering under the emergency lights. Engineer Chen, Captain Rodriguez, I must express my admiration for your courage. Few species would willingly risk themselves for others in this way. Elena smiled behind her faceplate. It's what we do, Captain. Humanity has a long history of running towards danger when others run away. Some call it bravery, others call it foolishness. We just call it Tuesday. With a final check of their equipment, Alex and Elena made their way to the airlock. The alien crew gathered to see them off, a mix of worry and hope evident in their varied features. Remember, Alex said as the inner airlock door began to close, if we're not back in 2 hours, don't wait for us. Get the ship to the nearest station any way you can. Before Zixera could protest, the airlock sealed shut. A moment later, the outer door opened, and the two humans stepped out into the void. The sight that greeted them was both beautiful and terrifying. The Starweaver's hull stretched out before them, its once smooth surface now pitted and scarred. Against the backdrop of endless stars, tendrils of eerie, shimmering energy danced across the metal, the residue of the spatial anomaly continuing its relentless assault. Well, Elena's voice crackled over the comm. I've had worse views on a Tuesday. Let's get to work. They pushed off from the airlock, their momentum carrying them towards the nearest damaged section. As they approached, the true extent of the damage became clear. The hull seemed to be almost alive, writhing under the assault of the otherworldly energy. Alex unclipped a specially prepared canister from his suit. Okay, I'm applying the neutralizing agent. Stand by with the sealant, Elena. As Alex began to spray the affected area, the residue reacted violently. Tendrils of energy lashed out, arcing dangerously close to the human suits. Elena let out a startled gasp as one tendril brushed against her arm, leaving a scorched mark on the suit material. You okay? Alex called out, concern evident in his voice. Elena grunted, already moving to apply the sealant to the newly neutralized section. Just a love tap, nothing to write home about. Keep going. For what felt like hours, they worked in tandem, moving from one damaged section to another. The void of space seemed to press in around them, the only sounds the hiss of their sprayers and their own labored breathing. As they neared completion of their task, disaster struck. A particularly large tendril of energy erupted from the hull, catching Alex squarely in the chest. He was thrown backward, tumbling uncontrollably into space. Alex! Elena screamed, immediately activating her suit's maneuvering thrusters. She rocketed towards her partner, her heart pounding in her ears. Inside the ship, the alien crew watched in horror as the drama unfolded on their monitors. Zixera's mandibles clicked rapidly in distress. Prepare a rescue team immediately, she ordered, though she knew in her heart that by the time they could launch, it would be too late. Elena reached Alex, grabbing hold of his suit's harness. His faceplate was fogged, and for a terrifying moment, she feared the worst. Then, slowly, his eyes opened. Did anyone get the number of that asteroid? He mumbled, his voice weak but unmistakably alive. Elena let out a laugh that was half sob. You idiot. Don't scare me like that. Can you move? Alex did a quick self-assessment. Nothing seems broken. Suit integrity is holding, barely. But Elena, we've drifted pretty far from the ship. As the adrenaline of the moment faded, Elena realized he was right. The Starweaver was now a distant shape against the star field, far beyond the range of their maneuvering thrusters. Well, she said, trying to keep her voice light, I always wanted to see more of the galaxy. Any bright ideas, genius? Alex was silent for a long moment, and Elena could almost hear the gears turning in his mind. Then, unexpectedly, he began to laugh. What's so funny? Elena demanded, wondering if the lack of oxygen had finally gotten to him. I just realized, Alex said, his voice filled with a mix of irony and determination. We're in a perfect position to test that theory I had about using spatial distortions for propulsion. Elena's eyes widened as she caught onto his train of thought. You mean, use the residual energy from the anomaly to create a localized warp field? Alex, That's insane. We could end up anywhere in the galaxy, or worse. True, Alex admitted. But right now, anywhere is better than here. Besides, didn't you say something about Tuesday? Despite the dire situation, Alina found herself grinning. All right, you mad scientist. Let's do it. What do you need me to do? As the two humans began their desperate attempt to harness the very forces that had nearly destroyed them, the crew of the Starweaver watched in awe. Whatever happened next, they knew they were witnessing something extraordinary, the indomitable spirit of humanity in action. Revelation and respect. The bridge of the Starweaver was eerily quiet, a stark contrast to the frantic activity of the past few hours. Captain Zixera stood motionless, her compound eyes fixed on the main view screen, watching the tiny figures of Alex and Alina drift further into the void. The alien crew members around her were equally still, each lost in their own thoughts about the brave humans who had risked everything to save them. Suddenly, Shylath's console erupted with a flurry of beeps and alerts. "Captain," the Serpentine communications officer hissed excitedly, "I'm detecting a massive energy surge near the human's last known position." All eyes turned to the view screen as a brilliant flash of light erupted in the distance. For a moment, it seemed as if a new star had been born, its radiance outshining everything around it. Then, as quickly as it had appeared, the light collapsed in on itself, leaving behind nothing but empty space. "No," Blorp whispered, his gelatinous form quivering with distress. "They can't be." Before anyone could respond, another alert sounded. This time, it was the proximity sensors. "Impossible," Zixera breathed, her antennae twitching wildly. "Scan the area immediately." The view screen shifted, zooming in on a point just off the Starweaver's port bow. There, tumbling gently in space, were two figures in environmental suits. "It's them," Blorp exclaimed, his voice bubbling with joy. "They're alive." Zixera sprang into action, her earlier composure replaced by urgent determination. "Launch the rescue shuttle immediately. Bring them in." As the rescue operation commenced, the alien crew could hardly contain their excitement. Theories and speculations flew back and forth about how the humans had managed to survive, let alone return to the ship. Within minutes, Alex and Alina were back aboard the Starweaver, their suits showing signs of incredible stress, but still intact. As they removed their helmets in the airlock, they were greeted by a sight they never expected. The entire alien crew packed into the corridor, erupting in cheers and applause. Captain Zixera pushed her way through the crowd, her normally stoic demeanor cracking to reveal genuine emotion. "Engineer Chin, Captain Rodriguez," she chittered, her mandibles clicking rapidly. "You've done the impossible." "Again, how?" Alex and Alina exchanged a glance, both looking exhausted but exhilarated. "Well," Alex began, running a hand through his sweat-soaked hair, "remember that theory I mentioned about using spatial distortions for propulsion? Turns out it works. Sort of." Alina chuckled, wincing slightly as she rotated a sore shoulder. "What Alex means to say is that we nearly atomized ourselves trying to surf a wave of quantum foam back to the ship. It was either brilliant or incredibly stupid, possibly both." The alien crew listened in rapt attention as Alex and Alina took turns explaining their desperate gambit. They described how they had used the residual energy from the spatial anomaly, combined with a reconfigured shield emitter from their suits, to create a localized warp bubble. "The tricky part," Alex explained, his eyes lighting up with scientific enthusiasm despite his exhaustion, was controlling the direction of the bubble. "We essentially had to steer through subspace using nothing but mathematical calculations and a whole lot of guesswork." Blorp oozed forward, his curiosity overcoming his usual timidity. "But the risks, the variables involved. How did you manage to calculate all that in such a short time?" Alina grinned, clapping Alex on the back. "That's where this guy's crazy brain came in handy. He did most of the heavy lifting in terms of the math. I just made sure we didn't explode in the process." As the impromptu debriefing continued, moved from the airlock to the ship's medical bay, the alien crew's perception of their human guests underwent a profound shift. What had started as cautious curiosity, tinged with more than a little fear, was rapidly evolving into deep respect and admiration. Dr. Zilks, the ship's medic, a spindly being with 4 arms and bioluminescent patches that served as diagnostic tools, insisted on giving Alex and Elena a thorough examination. As he worked, muttering in astonishment at the humans' resilience, Captain Zixera approached them with a serious expression. "I must confess," she began, her antennae drooping slightly in what the humans had come to recognize as a sign of humility. "I had misconceptions about your species. The stories we'd heard, they painted humans as dangerous, unpredictable, a potential threat to galactic stability." Alex and Elena exchanged a knowing look. They'd encountered such attitudes before in their travels. Zixera continued, her compound eyes reflecting a complex mix of emotions. "But now I see that we were wrong. Your courage, your ingenuity, your willingness to sacrifice for others, these are qualities to be admired, not feared." Elena smiled softly. "Captain, every species has its flaws and its strengths. Humans are no different. We can be dangerous, yes, but usually only to those who threaten what we care about. And right now, we care about this ship and everyone on it." Alex nodded in agreement. "We're explorers at heart, Captain. We seek out the unknown not to conquer it, but to understand it. And in doing so, we hope to forge connections with other sentient beings across the galaxy." The medical bay fell silent as the weight of this exchange settled over everyone present. It was a moment of profound cultural understanding, a bridge being built between 2 vastly different species. The moment was broken by Dr. Zilks, who stepped back from his examination with all 4 of his arms thrown up in exasperation. "I don't understand," he exclaimed, his bioluminescent patches flashing in agitation. "By all rights, you 2 should be dead, or at least severely injured. The radiation exposure alone from your little subspace surfing adventure should have liquefied your internal organs." Alex couldn't help but laugh at the doctor's distress. "Ah, well, that's the thing about humans, Doc. We're surprisingly hard to kill. Probably has something to do with evolving on a death world." Elena nodded, a mischievous glint in her eye. "Yeah, compared to some of the stuff we deal with back on Earth, a little spatial anomaly and some hard radiation is practically a day at the beach." The aliens in the room stared at them in a mixture of horror and fascination. Blorp, who had been quietly observing until now, finally spoke up. "Your home world, is it truly as dangerous as the stories say?" Alex and Elena exchanged another glance, this one tinged with nostalgia and a hint of pride. "Well," Elena began, settling in for what promised to be a long and entertaining explanation, "let me tell you about a little thing we call Australia." As the humans launched into tales of their home planet, the alien crew listened with rapt attention. Stories of deadly animals, extreme weather, and treacherous terrains that would make even the hardiest alien species think twice about visiting were met with gasps of disbelief and nervous laughter. But beneath the shock and awe, a new understanding was forming. The very qualities that made humans so adaptable, so resilient in the face of adversity, were the same qualities that had saved the Starweaver and its crew. Captain Zixera, listening from the doorway, felt a profound shift in her worldview. She realized that the galaxy was a far more complex and wonderful place than she had ever imagined. And with humans now part of the galactic community, it promised to become even more interesting. As the impromptu storytelling session continued, the captain quietly slipped away to the bridge. She had a report to make to Galactic Confederation headquarters, one that would challenge a lot of preconceptions about humanity. But more than that, she had a recommendation to make, one that might just change the course of galactic history. The adventures aboard the Starweaver were far from over, but one thing was certain. The bond forged between this diverse crew in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds would not be easily broken. And as word of their exploits began to spread across subspace channels, the ripples of their actions would soon be felt across the entire galaxy. A new era of cooperation. The Starweaver's arrival at Galactic Confederation Starbase Epsilon 9 was nothing short of sensational. News of the ship's harrowing escape from the spatial anomaly, and more importantly, the pivotal role played by the human crew members, had spread faster than a quantum entanglement signal across the vast network of alien civilizations. As the battered vessel docked, a crowd of diverse alien species had gathered in the observation deck, eager to catch a glimpse of the now famous humans. Hovering camera drones buzzed around, broadcasting the event to trillions of sentient beings across the galaxy. Captain Zixera led the procession down the gangway, her exoskeleton polished to a high shine for the occasion. Behind her came Alex and Alina, looking somewhat uncomfortable with all the attention but standing tall nonetheless. The rest of the Starweaver's crew followed, each proudly wearing a specially designed insignia that commemorated their shared ordeal. A delegation of high-ranking Confederation officials waited to greet them, their varied anatomies resplendent in formal attire. At the forefront stood Grand Arbiter Excel Crix, a towering crystalline being whose faceted body refracted light in mesmerizing patterns. Captain Zixera. The Grand Arbiter's voice resonated, sounding like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. We commend you and your crew for your bravery and resourcefulness. Your encounter with the spatial anomaly has provided invaluable data for our scientists. Zixera's antennae dipped in a respectful bow. Thank you, Grand Arbiter. But the true heroes of this story stand behind me. She gestured to Alex and Alina. Without these humans, the Starweaver and all aboard would have been lost. Grand Arbiter Excel Crix turned his crystalline gaze upon the two humans, who fought the urge to squint at the intense light refracting off his form. Engineer Chin, Captain Rodriguez, he intoned, your actions have not only saved lives, but have also challenged many preconceptions about your species. The Galactic Confederation owes you a debt of gratitude. Alex stepped forward, clearing his throat nervously. Thank you, Grand Arbiter. But Alina and I were just doing what any of our colleagues back on Earth would have done in the same situation. We're explorers and problem solvers by nature. It's kind of our thing. Alina nodded in agreement. If anything, this experience has shown us how much we all have to learn from each other. The cooperation between our human ingenuity and the advanced technology of the Starweaver is what truly saved the day. A murmur of approval rippled through the gathered crowd. Grand Arbiter Excel Crix's body pulsed with a warm, golden light, a sign of pleased agreement in his species. Well said, he chimed. In light of recent events, the Confederation Council has made a decision. We would like to formally invite humanity to join the Galactic Confederation as full members. A collective gasp echoed through the starbase, followed by excited chatter in 100 different languages. Alex and Alina exchanged shocked glances, the magnitude of the moment not lost on them. Grand Arbiter, Alina said carefully, we're deeply honored by the offer, but we're just two humans. We can't make such a monumental decision on behalf of our entire species. Excel Crix's crystalline form shimmered with what might have been amusement. Of course, Captain Rodriguez. We've already dispatched a delegation to Earth to extend the invitation formally. Your adventure has simply expedited the process. As the formal greetings concluded and the crowd began to disperse, Alex and Alina found themselves surrounded by curious aliens, all eager to learn more about the Deathworlders who had captured the galaxy's imagination. Blorp oozed up to them, his gelatinous form quivering with excitement. Can you believe it? He burbled. You're going to be famous across the entire Confederation. There's already talk of making an interactive holodrama about your adventures. Alex groaned good-naturedly. Great, just what I always wanted, to be played by some handsome holostar who knows nothing about engineering. Alina laughed, elbowing him playfully. Oh, come on. It might be fun, as long as they get my good side. As the day wore on, the implications of recent events began to sink in. Humanity, long isolated and viewed with a mixture of fear and fascination by the galactic community, was about to step onto a much larger stage. In a quiet moment between debriefings and media interviews, Alex and Elena found themselves alone on an observation deck, gazing out at the star-filled expanse. "You know," Alex mused, "when we signed up for that long-range exploration mission, I never imagined it would end up like this." Elena nodded, her eyes reflecting the starlight. "It's a big responsibility. We're going to be the face of humanity for a lot of these aliens, at least for a while. Think we're up for it?" Alex asked, a hint of doubt creeping into his voice. Elena turned to him, a determined smile on her face. "Alex, we survived a spatial anomaly, repaired a ship of alien design in open space, and invented a new form of emergency propulsion on the fly. I'd say we're ready for just about anything." As if on cue, an alert chimed on their communicators. Captain Zixara's voice came through, tinged with a mix of excitement and trepidation. "Chen, Rodriguez, you're needed in Conference Room Alpha. It seems the Confederation Science Council has some questions about your subspace surfing technique. They're talking about a joint human-alien research project to develop it further." Alex and Elena shared a grin, the thrill of new challenges and discoveries lighting up their eyes. "Duty calls," Alex said, straightening his uniform. "Just another Tuesday," Elena replied with a wink. As they made their way to the conference room, the two humans felt the weight of history on their shoulders. They had set out to explore the galaxy, but in doing so, they had become ambassadors, trailblazers for their entire species. The story of the Starweaver and its human engineers would be told and retold across the galaxy for generations to come. It would inspire countless young beings of all species to look to the stars with wonder, to embrace diversity, and to face the unknown with courage and ingenuity. For Alex Chen and Elena Rodriguez, it was just the beginning. The galaxy was vast, full of mysteries to unravel and challenges to overcome, and humanity, with its unique blend of determination, adaptability, and sheer audacity, was ready to take its place among the stars. As the doors of the conference room slid open, revealing a diverse gathering of the galaxy's greatest scientific minds, Alex and Elena stepped forward confidently. Whatever came next, they would face it as they had faced every challenge, with creativity, courage, and an unshakable belief in the power of cooperation. The new era of human-alien collaboration had begun, and the universe would never be the same.